All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mrs. Ferderer here to talk to you today about our MBI lesson. Each week we try to focus on a different area of the Bulldog Way. Today we are going to be talking about safety by reminding you of our school lockdown procedures. First of all, staff, students, and visitors in Hardin Public Schools have the right to learn, work, and be present in a safe and secure environment. Based on lockdown procedures that have already been established in our school, the following lesson will help us become more knowledgeable to know the difference between lockdown procedures and what to do with each lockdown. Now there are three different types of lockdowns, and we're going to talk about each one today. The first is an external lockdown, then we have internal lockdowns, and finally we have medical lockdowns. The first type is an internal lockdown. Now, internal means someone is inside the building, so that means we have a threat in our building. That means someone is in our building that shouldn't be there. The first thing to do is lock your doors and your windows. That means the teacher will most likely lock the door, and they might ask you to help lock their window by shutting it and putting the stick in if it's not there already. Then, everyone needs to get away from the door and the windows, and we need to make sure that we pull our shades down, so if there is a threat in the building, they can't see us. Then we also need to make sure that we turn off our lights and stay silent. We want anybody to think that your classroom is empty. So if we turn off the lights and nobody makes any sounds, then they won't think anyone is in there. This is especially important when we are practicing, because if we practice staying silent, it'll be a lot easier to do it. I know it can be kind of funny sitting that close to that many people, but we really need to make sure we take this seriously. The next one is obviously don't answer the door. We're trying to keep somebody out of our classroom. We shouldn't answer the door for anyone. Next, the teacher needs to look into the hallway and get students in your room. If there was somebody in the bathroom or the library, they need to make sure that they get back to their classroom as quickly as possible. And the last step is to remain calm. It's not going to help anybody be safe if people are panicking. So just listen to what your teacher tells you and you'll be great. The next type of lockdown is an external lockdown. External means that there is a threat outside of the building. So that means we think somebody is on the school grounds that shouldn't be here. The first step for this one is to keep students out of sight from the window. Obviously, if someone's outside, we don't want them to be able to see into our classroom. Also, along with this, that means we need to shut the door and close the window and make sure you pull your shades down, again, so people can't see in. With an external lockdown, you can continue working. There isn't a whole lot we can do to protect us from the outside. Like for the inside, we want to get away from the door, but the outside wall protects us better than the doors can. So you can keep working in your desk, but still remain quiet and calm. Teachers also need to make sure any students in the halls get into their classroom. And at this point, we want to make sure they get in any classroom, even if it's not theirs. They can always call or iChat another teacher to let them know that they're in their classroom. And finally, same with internal lockdown, don't answer the door. We want to keep our classroom secure. The last type of lockdown is a medical lockdown. Now, a medical lockdown happens if a person has a medical emergency and we need to get an ambulance in and out of the building. The first step for this one is to close your doors. Teachers will keep teaching. There isn't a threat to our school, we just want to keep people out of the hallways. So again, with this one, remain calm, there's no reason to freak out. Again, we want to clear the hallways, make sure that students get into your classroom. And lastly, students should not enter or leave the room. If you have to go to the bathroom, wait it out. With this one, we want to make sure that we don't create... Okay, so we want to make sure, again, that students are not in the hallway, because if emergency personnel do need to get into our building, we want to make sure that they have a clear path to get to the student that needs help and that they have a clear path out of the building. So, again, not the time to go to the bathroom. You can hold it. Usually these won't take too long, and usually this type doesn't happen as often. This would be if somebody would have a seizure, or if they had a severe allergic reaction, or if they broke a bone or something and we need to get an ambulance in. So again, the main thing is to keep calm, nothing to freak out about, just we need to make sure that the students or teachers can get the help that they need. So now that we have gone over the 3 different types of lockdowns and talked a little bit about how they're different from each other, we have 4 questions that we would like you to discuss as a class. It would be a good idea to have somebody write these down either on a whiteboard or on a piece of paper just to keep track of your answers. So the first question that we want you to talk about is it a good idea to text or call family or friends during a lockdown? That's something that people have used in an argument for having cell phones in the classroom, that they would like to contact their families in case of an emergency. But it might not always be the best idea because it might make people more worried than they need to be. The second question we want you to talk about is, if you are in the hallway and an internal lockdown procedure has been announced, what do you need to do? If you are in my classroom, for example, and you are way down by the band room, should you try to get all the way back to my classroom, or should you go into a closer teacher's room? So talk about which you think would be the better choice. For number 3, if you are in a lockdown and there is a knock on the door, should you answer it? I've had students ask me, well, what if somebody says, oh, it's me, let me in. Should we let that person in? Again, remember, we're focusing on safety, so what do you think we should do in this situation? And the last question we would like you to discuss is, are we prepared as a school for an emergency lockdown? So based on the drills that we have done and based on this lesson, do you think we as a school are prepared for a lockdown? So we would like you to discuss that. That's all we have for you today. Remember the Bulldog way: be respectful, be responsible, and be safe, and have a great Thanksgiving break.